Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror podcast. I am Kevin L. Powers. I'm your host for this amazing podcast. I'm also the owner and operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, in which we do podcasts, special events, and also film festivals. So it's great to have you here listening to us on our podcast. It's 2025, and we're really happy to be bringing it back. And, we're trying to delve a lot this year into a lot of different subgenres of the horror genre for a lot of our fans out there, since a lot of times a lot of these podcasts just tend to stick to the more popular stuff. But sometimes we like to delve into the unpopular stuff, the stuff that people just don't like to talk about, stuff that people actually hate. We will talk about it here on the podcast just so that you know exactly what is out there for you to either watch or to avoid like the plague. Tonight's or today's film that we're talking about is something that is I don't know if a lot of people still remember it or not. It's a cult movie, but it's not one of those cult movies that's talked about highly, which is surprising. It is Peter Jackson's The Frighteners, starring Michael J. Fox. The other thing is, talking with me about this film is Dave Watkins, who's returning to us again. We are very happy to have Dave on the show as usual. Say hey to everyone, Dave.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's good to be here.
And we're talking about The Frighteners, which is one of those few films that Michael J. Fox starred in that was also a horror and a comedy. So
this is also Michael J. Fox's last feature film where he was the main character. This is like after this he did Spin City, and actually while they were making this is when he found out he had Parkinson's disease, but he was able to keep working for a while with nobody knowing about it. That he's doing the show, and eventually he had to let it out, and really made it so he couldn't do full time. Like he couldn't really play. He wouldn't have the time to do the main character work because of the Parkinson's disease. But it is like I don't. He's not in. Is this the only horror movies he's in, or is it some others that you can think of? I'm sure he probably did some others when he was younger, getting into it. Maybe.
Yeah, he did a lot of comedies and a lot of teen movies. The closest you're going to probably get is Teen Wolf.
What about what? Yeah, there's like no. He did a movie. This one's not really horror, but it was like classic. Was it? I think it was 1999. It was like a 1996 maybe. I think the 1999 one was a sequel to it with the robots in it. But he's in that one. He plays one of the students, but he's really young in it. And he looks a little.
He had that young look for a very long time, even in The Frighteners.
yeah. He still looks kind of young in it, but
which is funny because one of the things I noticed watching it this time, because I've seen this movie a lot of times, is the fact that Peter Jackson seemed to have dressed him in that jacket that seems too big for him throughout the whole movie. It just seemed odd this time watching it, instead of him just looking like a bum who's a paranormal investigator, so to speak. So
right, yeah, it's possible. I didn't really notice that, but it's probably wasn't intentional. I mean, clearly it was intentional. Everything that Peter Jackson does is probably intentional, but he's probably because of the character's disposition, because of the way the character's like what he's gone through with his the wreck with his wife, and then he starts to see ghosts. So just him, it's probably like Peter Jackson's way of showing this character just don't care enough to get the right size clothes. Maybe.
So we're speaking about The Frighteners, which is before Peter Jackson got really famous with the Lord of the Rings films. So somehow this film gets buried between his more art house film, Heavenly Creatures, and those films. Not to mention his earlier films, which are all cult films, which is Bad Taste and Meet the Feebles.
Brain Dead or Dead Alive, that we actually did a podcast on that one.
Oh yeah, because we all love that. Dead Alive is a quintessential great zombie film. But
I first saw this one in the theater myself, and I was pretty blown away by it. Really, I thought it was. I really liked the mixture of the horror and the comedy, and it's kind of like almost like a kind of like Ghostbusters meets some kind of serial killer type of film, and it at the time it was like when it first came out, it was that this film was the one with the most special effects. Obviously right after this he did Lord of the Rings and everything like that, but this one had more special effects than what people were used to seeing.
So I also saw this at the theater, and I knew who Peter Jackson was because of Dead Alive. So, and then I saw Heavenly Creatures when that came out on video, and then I had to go back and find his other films. So I was already pumped to see this film because I'm still a huge Michael J. Fox fan. I've always been a Michael J. Fox fan, even when he was in that show that I can't remember the name of. The
Family Ties show.
it was yeah.
Family Ties, yeah.
I used to.
Yeah.
I wanted to be his character, dude. I wanted
And Family Ties, yeah. Alex Keaton, I guess the character's name, yeah.
I was always a fan, and so when I saw this film, I was pumped. And when I came out the theater, I thought this was one of the greatest movies of the year. I actually saw it twice in the theater, and then when it came out on video, I probably watched it another 20 times because I hadn't seen a film like this. You're right; it does touch on stuff like Ghostbusters, but for me, this is more of a horror film than Ghostbusters ever tried to be.
Right, yeah.
You know, Ghostbusters was mostly a comedy with some horror elements. This was a horror film with comedy elements. But I thought Michael J. Fox has an amazing timing in terms of a comedy in this film. It just works really well with all the characters.
I think too, on just to piggyback on that, not only is his comedic timing there, he also has a bit of a darkness to him that I don't remember seeing in his other performances.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a mixture of he really does really good work with it. And it really, like, when I saw it, I was used to seeing him doing more comedic stuff like Family Ties or Back to the Future, which is really light. But here it kind of mixes the light with the dark, and in a way that it doesn't go too dark and it also doesn't go too light. They do a really good job of kind of meeting in the middle with it.
You're right, because one of the things I noticed rewatching it now, when I rewatched it, Peter Jackson really saves those horror elements till later on in the film. You see, even the ghost, I can't remember his name. Dang it.
Yeah, I got you. It's
Busey's character.
Johnny Bartlett.
Johnny Bartlett.
Bartlett.
When he's
yeah.
killing people, he's just really giving them heart attacks, which is not all that visually bloody like you would see in Dead Alive or Meet the Feebles or even Bad Taste. This is very low key until you get towards the end when you start seeing D. Wallace Stone's character go crazy and start blowing people away, and people's heads gets blown off literally, and everything else.
So yeah. So apparently, with that shot, which we'll talk more about who that character is in a bit, but that was added later because what happened was he put the movie, he wanted a PG-13 rating, and he put it out there, and they just kept coming back with R. And he's like, you know what, we'll just go ahead and shoot the scene the way I wanted to shoot it to begin with, and have his head blown off, which so that they added that later. They went back and reshot his head blowing up like that. Jeffrey Combs plays the character. We'll talk about it here in a bit, but it's a great character, really. So this film starts out kind of light,
mm-hmm.
And so it is kind of like I say, Ghostbusters. More like Michael J. Fox plays a paranormal investigator, and it kind of follows him going through. Like he seems to be a bit of a con artist, but he's able to actually stop ghosts from doing stuff, and that's because he can communicate with the ghosts, and he has a few ghosts who are helping him. Played by like Chi McBride, he plays Cyrus, and Jim Fye plays the Stewart character, and they're both of those guys are hilarious in their parts. And I think they were really well cast. It's interesting with the casting. I was watching behind the scenes thing, and they had cast Jim Fye pretty early. He's Jim. You ever seen him in anything else? I've seen him in one other thing, I think. But
he's a character actor I've seen and stuff before, and I recognized him when I originally saw the movie, but he's not someone I actually followed as a character actor, so I can't think of the other stuff I've seen of him.
It's weird. It's weird though. Like he actually retired from acting. He's like an acting coach or something like that. But he they did a Dark Shadows remake in the 90s. Yeah, and he played like the Willie Loomis character in it, and he does really good as that character. Even though I prefer the original Willie Loomis, but I did like so, and also Chi McBride, who's he didn't originally like so he's an African American ghost in this one, but they originally couldn't find anybody to play that part, and somebody suggested him, and he saw the script and he didn't like it. He didn't like the character, and they were like, so they went and looked for some more people, and then they're like, you know what, we can't find anybody right for this part. Let's go back to Chi McBride and talk to him again, you know. And so they told him he could ad lib, do whatever he wanted to. So that's kind of he came out and he's like, all right, fine, I'll audition. And he came out and auditioned, and he like came up with a bunch of ad libs on the go. So they end up using the lines in the movie that he says in the audition. And Peter Jackson's like, just so you know, even if you refuse to be in the movie, I'm using your dialogue from the audition.
Well, I think you hit on something that I really enjoyed about it. Rewatching the film is that those two had some great chemistry, and then you throw in Michael J. Fox, and it's just they just hit it out of the park. And that's one of the great things about rewatching this movie. I think all of the actors did a phenomenal job, and they have great chemistry with all the other characters in the film, which is
right. Yeah, I agree. And these characters in general are kind of, the performances are a little elevated. They're a little exaggerated, with the exception of maybe she is still a little bit like was Trini I can't pronounce. I'm butchering her name. Alvarado, I think is how you pronounce it. Playing Lucy.
Yeah.
She's also in the Little Women film that had Winona Ryder in it. She played the oldest sister in that one. That's the only thing I've seen her in other than this. But
that's funny because it's the only thing I could think of too.
Yeah, I mean, I looked over her movies and I was like, I recognized her right away because I'd seen the Little Women movie a few times. But her character here is still a little bit elevated, but she's probably the most grounded character in the film, and Michael J. Fox is a little grounded, but his character is kind of like the one seeing ghosts, so he's not really the character to ground it. But she to me, she's really the only character that doesn't go too exaggerated with her performance.
Yes, I agree with you. I think because Michael J. Fox's character is so far removed from normality, because he's used to seeing ghosts all the time. He knows how they live. He knows how to react. He kind of has an answer for everything he sees because he's been watching it for 5 years since his wife was killed. Her character is the one that grounds everyone else, and she's the one that ends up believing him when no one else does, which I thought was interesting. I mean, it's the way it's written. I think Peter Jackson and his writing partner, I can't think of, Fran Walsh.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I didn't write it down. Fran something, but
I think they've got a great in all their films. Actually, in all their films, they do a great job with writing the characters so that there's always that one character who seems the normal one, and then there's a bunch of them that seem a little bit off. There's no real definition for like Jeffrey Combs's FBI character to be like totally bonkers,
right?
But it adds that little flavor to the film that makes it that I don't know. I don't want to say grounded because the whole movie is not really grounded.
Right, and it's got a very interesting style right from the beginning. They shot it in New Zealand, so it has that kind of. They're trying to make it look like it's not New Zealand. Mm-hmm. That was part of like Peter Jackson wanted to shoot there. He didn't want to shoot in the States, and so they told him that they could shoot it there as long as he tried to act like it was in the States. But it kind of makes it almost a little bit surreal, just like when you see the landscapes and stuff, because it clearly doesn't look like anything I've seen in the United States. It's like
no, I noticed that too. I noticed that when Michael J. Fox is just driving through the roads, and like all their curves everywhere, and you see the houses everywhere, and like this doesn't really look like America, and you kind of it clicks to you that no, this is New Zealand, and it's supposed to take place in America somewhere removed.
Yeah.
What's
hilarious, like in the earlier, like one of the earlier scenes, he goes to the graveyard and he tries to like get some new people to kind of con for some money for the ghost, but then he's driving and he's all pissed off, and then he drives off the road and drives into this guy's fence who's like Lucy's character's husband, and the guy's just like, he's all like decked out, and I guess he's been working out, and he's just freaking out about him hitting his fence. It's just that guy's hilarious with Peter Dobson, like the way he plays that character. So there's funny though about that. You ever see the movie Doc Hollywood with Michael J. Fox? Yeah, but it's kind of funny how he runs into the fence just like he runs into it in Doc Hollywood. I wonder if that's intentional. I don't know, but it's like I was thinking about that. I was like, wait a minute, that's kind of what happens in his other movie. Maybe it's like a
Ah,
homage to it. I don't know.
I don't know either, but you just reminded me of that. I had forgotten about that until just now. I because it's been a while since I've seen Doc Hollywood, but
Yeah,
I still really like that movie of all of Michael J. Fox's movies. Uh,
yeah,
I'm a little biased because it's hard for me to find one of his films that I have a huge fault with.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
you know, but getting back to the Frighteners, since we have skipped over a lot of the story elements of it, because we're all talking as though we've seen it a billion times.
Well, I was kind of starting from the beginning though. He runs into the fence, and then the guy's got the garden gnomes out there, and the guy like tells him off, and he's like gives him a card. He's like, yeah, just we'll deal with it later. And he backs out and drives over his garden gnomes, and the guy's like about to have a fit, you know. So, then he comes back later. Then he sends the ghost there, and the ghosts like make things look like they're moving around in the house, and then he shows up and tries to save, and he basically makes it look like he saved the house from being possessed. But
Yeah, but he also runs over all the garden gnomes on
yeah,
purpose.
yeah. But he comes back and runs into the fence even worse. You know? Yeah, that's great though. And then just that guy freaking out. The way that guy's handled the Ray character, then he dies off screen like in between scenes, and then later he comes back as a ghost. But it's weird the way it's handled, but it works within the film the way that the character dies. That the wife kind of cares about it a little bit, but not that much because I guess she was like he was so annoying to her that she doesn't seem to care like as much as you would expect from it.
Well, no, because you find out during the dinner scene that their marriage was not so good or as good as he had thought it was, which is why he starts getting angry. And then, of course, she gets even more angry when he reveals that he's wasted all of her money, all of their savings.
Yeah,
And she's
yeah, yeah.
typical of him.
And she's like, yeah, she's like knows that Michael J. Fox's character can talk to him, and she's like, can you ask him what he did with this money? And he's like, but it's I don't know, it's so that all that's like it's just almost comedic gold. It's just so damn funny before all of a sudden it becomes horror. Um, did you see the director's cut, or yeah, this has like 14 extra minutes in it compared to the regular cut?
I did not see the director's cut because I didn't know it was on the Blu-ray until after I had finished watching it.
I think it's interesting. And like Peter Jackson mentions this in the documentary, and it's probably true, but I do like I probably prefer the director's cut, but I've seen the movie before. I think that cutting 14 minutes of it out, it was already like an hour and 50-minute movie. And then, so I think now people don't give a shit if it's like 2 hours and 10 minutes. But back then it was like, we would need this thing to be an hour and a half, you know? So it was already pretty long, but it adds a lot of extra scenes with the ghost in it, which are pretty cool.
Hmm.
That's mostly it's like more of like of the Cyrus and Stewart scenes. There's more of them, and there's some more scenes with. We hadn't talked about the third ghost who lives in the house called the judge. Yeah, yeah,
Aston,
yeah, played by John Aston, who played Gomez in the original Addams Family show. But
completely unrecognizable though,
yeah, yeah.
unless you're looking for him. I
But
know,
he's a yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think I recognized him the first time I saw the movie. I saw his name on the credits, but I was like, who the hell was he in this movie?
What? Yeah. What's weird is I did recognize him. I don't know why I did, but it does still look like him, even though he's got like a ton of makeup on. It does still look like him, though. Yeah.
Voice it's
Yeah.
his voice.
But they kind of, well, they even like I guess the special effects guys, they made the prosthetics look like his face, just more like exaggerated. But he he's like a judge from the Old West, kind of reminds me of the character in House 2. You ever see that?
Yes.
Yeah, but he's not like that character. He's like a good character, but he's also kind of he's been a ghost for too long, and he's kind of deranged. But he lives in the house with the other two ghosts, and he kind of it's interesting on the deleted scenes. There's actually more scenes with the judge that didn't make it into even the extended cut, but he in the deleted, I mean in the movie, that's one thing I think about the film is there's a really good scene the first time he's introduced in the film where he sits down and has a talk with the judge, and the judge talks about how he's been a ghost for too long and he's about time to retire being a ghost. But but there's more scenes where the judge tends to go with Michael J. Fox more. He rides shotgun in the car when he goes places. It seems to be, which doesn't really happen. Maybe briefly, and you see him briefly in the theatrical cut in the car riding shotgun. But there's a couple of extra scenes with him that makes the character bigger than he is in the theatrical cut. He has a pretty awesome scene in the original version, even in that where the character, I guess he's already a ghost, but when he gets like taken out of the movie,
Yeah.
which I think we should probably not talk about that right now. But which part? Because I think that's one of the best scenes, really. But
Well, up until Bartlett's character is just killing normal people, you don't think the ghost can actually die or be forced to ascend. I don't know exactly which is the way to best word it, because we see some of the ghosts that Bartlett has killed at the very end of the movie.
Right, and that's it's weird about rewatching this. It's been a long time since I saw this, and I was thinking that I was like, what happens to the ghost when Bartlett's got a Reaper? Well, he also he looks like the Grim Reaper, and the way that they did that was computer animation, and it looks really really good in this. Really most of the computer animation, there's a lot of it looks pretty solid.
Still looks solid.
Yeah, I mean almost all of it. Even like say the first scene of the film, you got the carpet man, like who is really Bartlett under the carpet, but it's coming out of the walls. The walls move and then the carpet moves because he's under the carpet. The ghost is, but all that looks pretty good. But I'm looking at it. I'm like, how did they do that? Was what I was thinking. I'm like, is that computer animation or did they do that practically? And I guess it's a good thing to be asking that. So I mean, what did you think about it when you saw the carpet and the walls and shit?
Well, when I originally saw the movie, I thought it was all kind of as much practical as possible. But because now Peter Jackson and Weta have done so much stuff, I could see the Frighteners as this in-between movie where they were trying to develop a lot of new techniques before he went off to go do Lord of the Rings. I think before the Frighteners, I don't think he and his company had been able to do anything on the scale of this movie.
And what got him there was Heavenly Creatures, because that was the film that really got them recognition because everyone was really impressed with that.
You've seen that, right?
Yeah, yeah. Kate Winslet in it, and
brilliant movie. Love that.
And he said that they have not a lot, but they have some special effects. He said he used one computer on the special effects for that. He's like, for the Frighteners, they had to have like about 36 computers to do the special effects.
Well, yeah, because there's only those special moments in Heavenly Creatures where they need the visual effects to really pop. But in this movie, there's visual effects in every other shot, pretty much, if not more than that, because Michael J. Fox has this companion ghost, and then of course there's Bartlett and his story on the side as he's killing people. I mean, there's visual effects everywhere, and it's not just like stationary.
Yeah.
Bartlett's ghost is flying through the city, city. There's no city in this. The small town,
right,
rooftop to rooftop.
They did that by using like miniature models for
which
that.
Are amazing skill.
Yeah. They look good. They actually knew what the town looked like, and the locations, and they did a lot of green screen in this too. Like what's weird, like I did watch the behind the scenes on this, and then so basically when they shot the scenes with the ghost, which there's a lot of them when he's talking to like Cyrus and Stewart, they would bring the actors into the room with Michael J. Fox, and they would do the scene, and then they'd have the actors leave, and then he'd do the scene with nobody there, just to himself, and then they used what's called a motion control on the camera. Are you familiar with that? Yeah, so it's I wasn't all that familiar with it, but it's basically the camera times it, so then like a month or two later they went back in the green screen, and they were able to follow the motion of the camera movement to match with the add the ghost back in, against the blue screen. So it's a lot of very intricate shots with these like the actors, like the two ghosts that cross each other while they're talking, and the camera moves. It all of its motion, it's like that motion control, which
it's all timed. It has to be timed so in editing they can match everything. And the thing is that with this film, Michael J. Fox interacts with the ghost a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to keep that in mind too. He's getting thrown across. He's getting beat up by ghosts. And then yeah,
Yeah.
this isn't something where he's just talking to them. He actually interacts with them a lot.
Right, right. And there's yeah, but it's just the shots that got me though is just like it's funny when you're watching it. It's like you're not thinking anything about it. It all seems so natural and smooth. But when you like look at how they accomplished some of the shots, you're like, wow, they did a lot of work to just accomplish what you're just thinking. It was just naturally just happening in front of the camera, you know. But the way that they make the ghosts look, like they could have just made them look human or whatever, but they make them look all transparent and blue, and they put like a haze around them.
Yeah, and then if you watch closely, you slowly see more. I guess Michael J. Fox's character called it ectoplasm. So the longer that they're around, the more the ectoplasm they see. Now the Lucy's husband is the one you see it the most of because he starts off looking normal the very first time Michael Jackson sees him, but as the film progresses, before he
Michael J. Fox, not Michael Jackson.
Did I say Michael Jackson? Oh my god!
I think you did.
Not the same person at all. Michael J. Fox. When his character interacts with Lucy's husband, he's normal. But when slowly throughout the whole film, and especially at the dinner scene, you start seeing the ectoplasm coming down his face more. And they say that that's what happens when you get older. And
happens pretty quick to him. Maybe it's just because of the stress level. Maybe it's because his wife's like he completely different than what he thought was going on with his life, and he's just like, you bitch.
Well, the thing is, I also had the idea that when I'm watching The Judge, the reason why he's retiring is he's almost bones.
Yeah.
He didn't die of almost being bones, but at some point, the guy is pretty much just bones. It's probably because he's been around for so long.
Right, and that's yeah, because you see him one time. The first time you see him, he's completely without a coat on, and you can see his spine and all that. And then later on, he wears a coat because that special effect was a real pain in the ass to pull off, apparently. But that's yeah. As far as the Bartlett being introduced, there's a little bit more of a warning about that in the film in the director's cut because John Astin's character, the judge, when he's in the car with him one time, he starts to talk about how he's starting to feel something coming, like the Grim Reaper or death or something like that. He's like, yeah, there's something not right around now. The very first, I guess it is already established. The first scene, which there's a newspaper reporter who's kind of reporting on people dying in town, and his boss, who's an English woman. Apparently, those two characters were in the original script more than what you see on screen. I think they cut the scenes out before they shot them. They actually do there's a storyboard retelling of the film on the documentary, and it shows the storyboard, but they actually had scenes with those two characters. Like she's his boss, and she was kind of making him have sex with her or whatever, Yeah. So yeah, so there's that kind of relationship going on with them, and they ended up having to cut the scenes for timing. I guess they were probably going over budget, and then they reduced those characters to you see him right away. He's really only in two scenes, I think. That the first time you see her talking to him, he's a reporter, and he's covering the deaths that are happening. And then later on, you see him as a ghost briefly. He's already been killed. You see his body after the ghost or the Reapers killed him.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as that sort of the Reaper, the way it's brought in, it's kind of introduced lightly at first, and then he sees the numbers of the victim. He doesn't know what it means at the time. He sees it on Ray's forehead during the scene when they're just trying to, I guess, exercise their house, and then it's.
You mean Michael J. Fox?
Yeah, Michael J. Fox sees the number for the first time on Ray's forehead, and he's like, "What's up with the number?" And then the Ray character, who her husband's this guy's a flammer. He's a con man. He needs to get out of here, but he doesn't know what's up with the number that time. He thinks the other ghost maybe did it, but then he dies, and then he starts to see numbers on other people's heads.
Yeah, so I am a little after rewatching him, I'm a little mixed by that. Before the last time I watched it, I didn't think Michael J. Fox's character knew what the number was for. When I rewatched it, and anyone out there, because I don't know, and you watched behind the scenes stuff, so you may know a little bit more. When I rewatched it, and Michael J. Fox asked the ghost who put the number on his head, he seems angry.
Right, and he should be because that's because his wife was killed and she had a
Exactly.
number on her forehead.
So,
So yeah,
so for him, it would be that he doesn't know what the number. He knows what the number meant, but he doesn't know why someone would put the number on some other guy.
right. Yeah, I think that's what it is though. I think that I think he thinks the ghost did it, and he doesn't appreciate it because for one thing they didn't
Okay.
tell him they were going to do it. For another thing, that was like what happened to his wife. According to the backstory of his wife, which is told later on when Jeffrey Combs, Agent Dahmers, shows up, he tells a story to Lucy about how he killed his wife, and it's told very awesomely. It's like he's like this construction worker, whatever his name was, and it shows like a dolly end of the guy's face. He's like he saw him drive away after a certain time, but he was having a fight with his wife over. They were building a new house, and he pulled a basketball court and instead of she wanted her garden to be there, so he poured a basketball court there, and they were having a fight about that. And then they were driving, and then they had a wreck. But then when he woke back up, she was dead on the ground, far away from the car, with a number carved in her head. And everyone, he didn't remember what happened, and everyone, some people assumed that he did it. He wasn't blamed for it because there wasn't any forensic evidence, I don't guess. But
Mhm.
I think a really touching part too, when like in the present day house, he never finished the house. He's still living in it. It's a pretty cool. That location is pretty cool. Just the idea of it. It's like a half finished house. The windows aren't even in there. But then the basketball court is decrepit. But he's still he. The only thing good there is the garden. He actually put a garden there where the basketball goal was, where the basketball court was supposed to be, because of his wife was wanted the garden there, and that's the only thing that's kept up at all.
Yeah, he keeps telling himself he's going to finish this house, but I think it was the judge who says you're never going to finish this house.
Yeah, 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 and it's in bad shape for sure. They apparently built that for the film, to that location. They built the inside and the outside for the film, and then they tore it down after they shot all the scenes there.
Yeah, well, it's better than building what do you call it, a model of it and then tearing that down. It looked more realistic being in the background of Lucy and Michael J. Fox's character.
Right.
They're trying to get on with their lives by destroying everything that came before. Which kind of jumped. I guess everyone knows now that Michael J. Fox and Lucy survives. Now that I just said that, but if you couldn't have guessed that, they survived.
Well, I think that's like it's pretty good that they survive. It is a little cheesy, but I think it helps because of all they have to go through. It was a little dark what they had to go through. It's good to see like them come through on top at the end.
Well, and you say dark, and the third act of this movie gets really dark, especially when they go back to the hospital of the original Bartlett and it was it Penelope. What was
Her name's Patricia, played by Dee
Patricia?
Wallace Stone. Yeah,
I know it's RP.
yeah, yeah,
Patricia
yeah.
and Bartlett's complete massacre at this hospital. And of course, people did the public in large didn't realize Patricia had anything to do with it. But one of the great things that I loved about this movie, even though they don't really establish how Michael J. Fox can see the past, I actually love that concept because the audience gets to see firsthand what really happened there.
I think, yeah. They're really like the first time I saw the film, that part blew me away. I was just like, wow, it's the way it's shot and the way that
Uh-huh.
it progresses forward. Like you see, like the girl, yeah. So the Patricia is sort of based on a true serial killer and his girlfriend. I don't remember their names, but but Bartlett is the serial killer in the hospital. So he kills, I think, 13 people at the hospital, and they carve their numbers into their foreheads. And then Patricia is, I think she played, was a nurse at the hospital, but she's his accomplice, and she's actually involved with helping him kill people. And later on, before you get to further into the film, you think that she might be innocent. She seems
Mhm.
like she was maybe like sort of like a pawn in the whole thing, and up until a certain point of the movie when it twists. But as far as that whole sequence, when you see like Patricia come out and shoot somebody, and then all of a sudden it cuts to present day, and he sees like the real Patricia with a gun who's trying to kill him again. I mean, I guess the only thing about it, I guess there are two things about that particular thing. Which the first thing is, I wish it somehow helped him to see the past because it doesn't help him at all. It actually hurts him.
Yeah.
Like he almost gets killed because having to see the past. It would be interesting if seeing that actually made him find. It would have been cool if he could see something in the past that would help him in the present day.
He did one thing.
Do I know?
He learned where the chapel was for the past.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, that does happen. Yeah, because otherwise they never would have found the chapel.
But they never make it in there anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I had forgotten that. I kept thinking they made it into the chapel, but they never made it into the chapel. I completely forgot that.
Apparently, that whole part was added on to the movie because like they had the ashes of Bartlett, and it was like it's kind of weird too, though. I guess the second thing I was going to point out, it's kind of weird that the house that Patricia's living in with her mom is right beside the hospital where all these people were killed, and the hospital's like abandoned. So I guess it's kind of odd, but I never thought about that before. But I'm like, I don't know, whatever. It's a movie, and it makes for a really cool ending for that sequence, you know.
Well, you can think of it this way: since Patricia was originally a nurse there, she just walked to work every day.
Yeah. It's a little random, like when that happens, but I never really questioned it before. But when I was watching this time, I was like, it's a little random that they just like. What's funny is like I was watching it, and then I was like, I think I zoned out or something, and then I was like, wait a minute, how did they get from being inside of Patricia's house to being in this like abandoned hospital while they're being chased by Bartlett's ghost, who could easily kill Lucy at any moment, you know?
Oh my God. Yeah. I was actually glad that they did the twist where, they didn't like throw Bartlett's ashes into the chapel.
Yeah.
That was the end of Bartlett. I love the way the movie ended. I'm not going to give away the way it ended either. But I love the fact that, you're thinking the story might go one way, but they kind of turn it each time. I mean, having Michael J. Fox character, go into a deep, I guess, paralysis / death, so he can go into the afterlife or the other world, the other realm, to find Bartlett and kill him there. Was a great sequence.
That's it's the sort of thing too. I think that especially near the end of this film, there's certain things that happen that you just kind of have to go with and not like question too much. Yeah, I think in order to really enjoy the film, because if he's have an outer body experience, I don't know how much time you're going to have, but it seems like it's almost half an hour or longer that he's out of his body. But it just seems
20 minutes, and it's supposed to be 20 minutes in film time, but it could be like 30 minutes for us watching.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the science is behind this, but I did see in another film where 9 minutes was kind of like, what was it? I think I saw like it was Smile 2 when they're doing that in Smile 2. They're like 9 minutes was longer than normally. I think like I don't remember what the normal time was. You could be dead, but like he's out a lot longer than 9 minutes, you know? So you got to ignore whatever science is behind that. But like you say, maybe it is like a deep sleep, like you're saying, and maybe he's not really completely dead. He's just like so deep into this sleep. It's like that the spider Venom from Lost when they're like they have they can't move.
Oh my God! But they freeze him, so they freeze him to drop his temperature all the way down. Who knows? It's film logic. They give him 20 minutes so they can actually get through the rest of the plot.
Right. I tell you though, the first time I saw it, I didn't question that at all. I believed him. I was like, yeah, that shit's real. I mean, not like the 20-minute thing, not him being able to be a ghost and do all this other shit that he does, but because he has to be a ghost in order to fight Bartlett, who actually like he's not. Bartlett, once he fights him as a ghost, Bartlett's like kind of like he loses the psi and the cloaks, which makes him less powerful. It seems like he can't really choke. There's something about that which they never explain. Something about having the psi and the cloak makes it so that he can reach his hand into people's chest and stop their hearts. So that's what he's able. Because once he loses that, he can't. It doesn't seem like he can do it anymore, and he has to have Patricia do all the work. You know.
Hmm. Yeah, you know what? I did question that. You're right, because when I think it was the part where he has to ask Patricia to kill Lucy, because she wants to say, "Can she kill him? Can she kill him?" You know, and instead
Yeah.
of him just going and killing her himself. You know.
Right. Right. Well, because like once he loses the Grim Reaper shit, I don't think so. I don't know why he can do it with that, but it's something he's probably over time being a ghost. He's probably found some way of doing it.
Hmm.
I guess probably into some occult stuff too. But we didn't talk about the museum scene, which happens in the middle of the film. That's when the judge is chopped in half by
Yeah.
Bartlett or the Reaper. That whole sequence is friggin' amazing. Like where you think so. There's all these cops like he comes in. All the cops think that Michael J. Fox is responsible for the stuff going on, or Frank Bannister, played by Michael J. Fox. I think he's responsible for what's going on, and then the Grim Reaper is about to, I guess he's about to kill that she's not a reporter, but she works for the newspaper. She's like head of the newspaper. And
Probably
then
the
the
editor.
judge, yeah, editor. And then the judge comes in and starts shooting the Grim Reaper ghost, and it's like he's able to, since he has like fake bullets, he's able to shoot the ghost, and it's a pretty cool scene. You know, it's
Yeah.
pretty cool when the judge just shows in and does that. But then he cuts the judge in half, and you never see the judge again after that. And later on, he takes out the other two ghosts, Cyrus and Stewart, like the Grim Reaper does, and you don't see them again until the end.
Mhm.
But something about that causes them to go across to the other side. But in the original script, and they actually shot the scenes too with the judge. Like the judge gets cut in half, and he survives longer than that. He crawls away, and he's able to walk around just on his hands, and his feet and his like, the other half of his body walks around separately. And it shows him a couple more times in the script. Like he goes outside and he gets the dog. There's like the ghost dog to come and he starts riding the ghost dog. And he brings him. Yeah, he's like, I need to go to the cemetery. I'm done. And the dog brings him to the cemetery. And then later on, when Michael J. Fox is in the cemetery as a ghost, he goes into one of the graves and he finds the judge and he gets the judge to help him fight Bartlett at the end. Or not at the end, like, because that's not the end, but what you think might be the ending, but it
Yeah.
really goes on for another like 30 minutes after that. But he comes out and the judge helps him in that fight, and then later on at the very end of the film, the judge shows back up in the last scene and talks to him again and says he's gonna take the dog and he's going west and this other half of his body's going east or something, you know. So, but there was a larger character John Astin played, but they cut out some of that stuff, and it's probably better that they did. I don't because it's such an awesome scene when he gets cut in half, and it's even though it's kind of like it's just very. After that, you're like, what happened to him? Though it is a question of what happened to him. It would have been better had it been like a what he does to Stewart and Cyrus, that he basically deflates them and they disappear. You know, if he'd done that to the judge, I think it would have been more obvious
Uh,
what happened to him. You know.
Gotcha. Yeah, now that you told me that, that would make much more sense. I just assumed that he, whatever ghost that Bartlett kills, they just, automatically die.
Yeah.
But you're right. He's the only one that you don't see deflated or skinned like you need Lucy's husband. You just see
Right.
his carcass
Yeah.
flying on top of a car.
Right, right. And I guess really you don't have to see it. I guess it's assumed, and that's why they were like they had all these other scenes shot, but they didn't. They have them edited together. You can see them in the documentary. They actually have the scenes edited together, but they didn't finish them. It was like kind of like this is the scene, and we're going to show it to you. But they there was like a lot more they had to do to finish the scene, but then they ended up cutting them, so they never really bothered going back and finishing the scenes.
Yeah.
There was another character in the film that was cut too, that was called the Guardian. When they go into the cemetery, and there's like this, it's supposed to be this really big character who guards the outside of the cemetery and is like doesn't let them in. The way it was storyboarded, but then they changed it to like it's really weird. It's like a big Cupid thing, and it has wings, and it's like got like a yeah, it's an animatronic face, and it looks kind of cool, but it would have been really weird. They cut it out, but they shot the scenes and they actually have them edited together, and it interacts with Arlie with Arlie Emery's character, who's like playing the same character from Full Metal Jacket, pretty much. But it's a sergeant who's guarding the graveyard. But it's a weird, really weird looking thing.
Yeah, but
It,
Arlie does a great job as the sergeant or of the graveyard.
yeah, and they were telling a story about that where they said they wrote the character very similar to Full Metal Jacket drill sergeant, and they tried to cast some people, and then they're like, um, you know who we really want to do this is Arlie. What's his name? Arlie. I don't know why. Like, I know his name, but now suddenly, but but they're basically like, the guy from Full Metal Jacket that would be perfect, and they're like wouldn't ask him, and he was like into it like immediately. It's like that. But yeah, that's pretty cool though. He's in it in a couple of scenes. It's
Well, you know,
Arlie Emery, which was that's what I was trying to say. I don't know why it was. It's funny because I can see his name written out, but then
yeah.
when I start to say it, I'm like, I don't think I've ever said that out loud before. But I've thought it in my head like 1,000 times,
Oh man, yeah, but he's great. Just like having Jeffrey Combs in there, he's a great character actor to have for that specific role.
Right, right, and yeah, Jeffrey Combs is like when that character is just like he shows up. He's like an FBI guy who's been through a lot of stuff, about a lot of undercover stuff, and he's just unhinged. And it is interesting because you think that he like while Frank's trying to like tell him what's going on, like he tells him the truth, and he just can't hear it. He thinks
Mm-hmm.
he's still lying, and it's like you think maybe like I don't know. I mean, it's funny that he doesn't get on his side, and he just it escalates because he becomes like he's convinced that Frank Bannister, like Michael J. Fox's character, is the enemy, and he just kind of escalates that thought and won't let it go, no matter what happens. No matter what he sees, he's there to stop him. He thinks he's like the devil or whatever.
Which is well for me, which is funny as hell because as much as the occult that his character has been through, because you see him with all the scars.
Right,
You think that he would be the first person to believe Michael J. Fox's character, Frank Bannister, and what
right.
he doesn't believe any of it. He simply believes that he is a murderer.
And I guess he's an FBI profiler, but it's a little frustrating, but his performance is just like off the chain though. That like Jeffrey Combs' performance, it reminds me a little bit of Jim Carrey, like a little bit, but he does it, but it's a lot darker.
Well, I thought he was just like he was in, say, Reanimator. Uh,
Yeah, right, right. And he kind of looks like Jim Carrey a little bit, really, a little bit, but not in this movie. He has like a Hitler haircut. He
That's what I
cut
was
his
about to say. But that
yeah,
haircut,
he cut his hair to look like Hitler, but he actually did some. He not only did he did that, he got real into it. The same thing with like I think with Peter Jackson, what like was like he's like, is that guy still acting? The guy from Reanimator? And they're like, yeah, we could find him. And like the casting director went and found him, and he was like into doing it. But he went with this Jeffrey Combs went to the special effects artist. He had this idea about putting something behind his ears to make his ears stick out more to make him look more goofy, which they did. And he also wears black contacts to make him look more sinister. But I don't know, that character stands out a lot to me. I always thought it was just it's over the top, like, but it's something about it really I think really works.
for me, having seen Peter Jackson's Dead Alive and Meet the
It,
Feebles, and of course Jeffrey Combs and Reanimator, I kind of like just chalked it up that that's just Peter Jackson's personality, and he hired the guy who was I can't remember the character's name in Reanimator, but
Herbert West.
Herbert West. I
Yeah,
should know that like right off,
yeah, yeah,
roll
yeah.
off the tongue.
Right, right.
When you're hiring Jeffrey Combs, it's better that he does those kind of quirky characters. Although this one does go a little bit extreme when he starts pulling out huge freaking machine guns and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, he does. That's when he pulls out the machine gun, it's like, what? But it's, I mean, I don't know. It's everything he does is extreme, and it's just like, I don't know. There's also another cop in here, played by Troy Evans, who does pretty good. He's probably one of the more like likable characters, and he's also one of the more down to earth characters in the film, which you kind of need that to balance out the FBI guy who shows up crazy like that. Troy Evans was actually in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective and Demolition Man as well, playing a cop, I believe, in
Ah,
both times. Yeah,
I can't remember where I'd seen him from.
yeah. Well, it's funny. I think I remember like when I saw this film, I recognized him. I think from Ace Ventura when I saw it, I was just like, yeah, that guy, yeah. But he's very likable in this. He's one of the few likable, characters.
And he believes Frank Bannister. I think he's the only one in the entire town that does actually.
Right at the end of it, he wants him. I don't know if he does believe him. He wants him to help him write a book, but
Well, at the end of the movie, yes,
yeah.
but throughout the whole movie, he doesn't think there's anything really wrong with Frank.
Right, yeah, he does seem to have his back a little bit.
Yeah,
He doesn't think that he killed his wife. I don't think that he doesn't necessarily think that he sees ghosts. I don't think,
no,
but he does. He knows he didn't kill his wife. I think all the cops think that except for but actually, like one of the cops comes up to Jeffrey Combs' character Dammers, like he's basically like he does this interrogation to Frank Bannister's, and he's so good at this interrogation that he actually convinces Frank Bannister that all of it's in his head, and that's how good of an interrogator he is. That he believes it. Jeffrey Combs' character believes what he's doing, and he basically puts Michael J. Fox in a state where he doesn't even see ghosts anymore, and sends him back to his cell, and then he's standing outside the cell and then another cop comes up to him, and he's like, there's no forensic evidence tying Frank Bannister to any of these crimes. And he's like, that doesn't matter. He's going to commit suicide way before this goes to trial. I mean, it's such a messed up mentality. It's like he doesn't. It's like he's convinced in a way, but maybe he's not. Maybe he just wants to solve. He wants to solve the crime to make it look like the crime's solved. But he's done this a lot of times. He's taken a person to the point to the brink of insanity and made them think something that wasn't true about themselves. Some of those interrogators, those police interrogators, are very good at doing stuff like that, and he apparently is, and he pushes him to the brink of insanity pretty much from this interrogation, and then
to the point where Frank Bannister thinks that he deserves to be in prison.
Right,
Lucy has to knock some sense to the guy.
Right, yeah. She goes in there, and him having to save her, and the two ghosts like Cyrus and Stewart come in there, and then they have to fight Bartlett as the Grim Reaper to stop him from killing Lucy.
Yep. So okay, so I'm trying to think of any characters that we haven't discussed already.
I know we've discussed like D. Wallace Stone's character a little bit, but yeah.
Yes. Oh no, we got to talk more about D. Wallace.
Yeah.
Only because for the longest time I used to love D. Wallace and everything, and that the turn in this movie was not something I expected when I first saw this. I'm only seeing her as like E.T. or in E.T. You think she's the homemaker mom.
Right.
You're watching her in The Howling, where she's the main character, or Cujo, where she's also the main character, where everything happens to her. What you're not expecting is for her to have this. And in this movie, she's, like you said, she's set up to be this innocent young girl who is just taken advantage of by a serial killer until she loses her shit towards in the third act. Is twisted, and she's just as crazy as Bartlett is, if not crazier. And then you get to see her go on, kick ass and take names by just grabbing a fucking shotgun and just shooting up everything. Like I'm not before.
Yeah, I think like too is just her facial expressions in certain times, especially when like Bartlett's talking to her and she's like agreeing with him, and she just has this look on her face like this is like really awesome. I can't wait to kill like Lucy. She's like we're killing her, but like we're gonna be real subtle about it. But there's a scene where like the part where Lucy looks back and sees her kind of caressing Bartlett, but Bartlett she can't see Bartlett, and she just looks really like crazy in that part, and she does such a good job of playing that crazy part, because it's like a sweet like psycho, sweet psycho but crazy, trying to pretend like they're not, and then they once they get to the point where they are revealed, it's just all
It is, which is so funny because she doesn't get enough of these roles. I think she absolutely deserves them. I had to just take a few moments because I actually did have time to speak with her at Days of the Dead a few years back when she came there, and because thankfully Days of the Dead when I was there wasn't a whole lot of people, so I got to speak with her about all her movies. I didn't speak to her about the Frighteners for some damn reason. It just did not dawn on me. We were talking about mostly The Howling, because that's still one of my favorite movies that she's ever done. It's not
Yeah.
E.T. As much as I think E.T. is Spielberg's best movie. She's just a mother.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would think The Howling to me as well would stand out as like the film I would think about her in because even though she gets a very high billing in ET, she's not in the film that much, you
No,
know. I mean,
no,
she's maybe she's maybe if you were to take it by amount of screen time, she's probably like maybe third or fourth build maybe, but because it would Drew Barrymore and Henry Thomas's character both have more screen time I would think than her and ET of course.
and
Yeah,
E.T. Yeah,
yeah. You can't bill ET because he's a puppet, you know.
but yeah, no, we spoke a lot about The Howling, but she seemed to me to be someone who would have loved to have played a lot more risque roles when she was younger. But she got this image where she was this uh, leading lady slash good person in most of them because Cujo she is having an affair, but she's still a loving mother.
Yeah.
And she kind of got stuck with those roles for a long time. But here in the Frighteners, she gets to let it all go crazy. And that actually was a breath of fresh air when I saw the Frighteners originally, because I was not expecting that to happen. I'm older now, so I probably would expect some of these twists and turns much more readily than I was when I originally saw this. I can't remember what year this came out.
1996.
96. So
Yeah.
I was my first year of college when I saw this movie. Jesus.
Yeah.
96.
This, yeah, it's like I think the film does an interesting job of shuffling like several different plots. You
Yes.
have like because you have like the original idea was the Frank Bannister character just talking with a ghost and doing these like using these ghosts to help him go around and make money. That was kind of the main idea. But then you also have these other plots of like Johnny Bartlett and D. Wallace Stone's character Patricia. It kind of juggles those things together, and there's actually like it seems like that and the numbers end up meeting with that, but it just seems like it's interesting because there's several different plots going on that end up converging.
Uh huh. And that's one of the best things. That's one of the good things about this film because they do converge at some point. These aren't separate little plot points that just don't go anywhere. They actually add to the overall story because it's like a mystery without you knowing it's a mystery until you get to the end. Because there's no one trying to figure this out. Michael J. Fox's character isn't readily trying to figure it out. He's just thrown in there and he sees these numbers. And then he wants to save people, which seems kind of odd, but he wants to. They become people that he's more personal with. He's not out there.
Well, it's interesting too, though. The numbers, like, it's almost like they're doing it on purpose, like to mess with him because they're doing it in front of him more often. Apparently, with the exception, the first time they do it in front of him is Ray,
Mhm.
and then but there's several others before that because I think it's like 13 Rays. I think Ray's maybe 24. So there's a lot of people that have been killed between like the people at the hospital and Ray. But all the other ones they didn't do in front of him, but it seems like they want to do it in front of him after that. It's almost like they like I mean I guess they're psychotic and that's kind of like they can't just kill people. Now they like want to do it in front of him because they did it to his wife, you know. They killed his wife as well, apparently. Like it shows the flashback of Patricia killing his wife.
That was the last one that was a physical one. The rest of them after the 13 were all done as ghosts. I don't know.
Right.
Patricia, I don't think was involved with those other ones. I don't think she became involved until, like they say, she's only been out of the hospital for 5 years, and that's when everything started to really kick in gear.
Right, yeah, because they started sedating her at the house, and she's there with her mom, and she wasn't able to go out and do stuff, but they're able to Johnny Bartlett, who the ashes that they have, he's able to get out of the canister and go out and kill people. But it's just like a it's almost it's a for them to start killing people's in front of Bannister so frequently that it's almost like they want to get caught in a way, or either that they not necessarily want to get caught, or maybe they just think it's more of a challenge to do it in front of somebody who's or trying to blame it on him, I guess, but which
I
isn't ever
do,
going to work because of the forensic evidence. But so,
yeah, but I do see Patricia and Bartlett as like the Mickey and Mallory from Natural Born Killers.
oh
They,
yeah, yeah,
you know, they make such a wonderful deranged couple who just want to kill everybody. I don't think there is any rhyme or reason to who Bartlett kills. To be honest with you, it all seems just random. The guy in the bathroom that just happens to be there when Frank Bannister's in there. You know,
right, and
I
then
don't. I
yeah.
don't. I actually, you might know more about the whole setup of why certain people were getting killed, like the reporter people. Who.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, like in the documentary, it didn't say why. It may not even. I just think it's kind of odd that suddenly, like all the ones before that, they weren't in front of Frank Bannister, and then suddenly they're killing people. I mean, and then maybe they're just trying to frame him, and maybe that was kind of what they were trying to do, maybe. But
Who
it
knows?
seemed a little risky, at that point because they could continue to kill people more subtly and kept doing it if they didn't
More
get
frequently too.
Bannister. Yeah, if they didn't get Frank Bannister involved with it, because that kind of is their ultimate demise once they trying to frame him. But I don't. Maybe they're not. Maybe I don't. Maybe they're just completely chaotic and they're not trying to frame him. They're just wanting to kill people and escalate it. But
Uh, and that's a question that we may never ever know unless we were to sit down with Fran
but
Walsh and Peter Jackson and say, what the heck was going through your mind when you decided to do this movie and have just Bartlett and Patricia just killing random people, or not killing random people? Maybe they were doing it on purpose. They were killing them in front of Frank Bannister because they hate Frank Bannister. Who the hell knows? All right,
yeah, I
all
think
right.
yeah. I
So
think one other thing I guess throw out there is Denny Elfman did the music on it, which is pretty awesome. Did the music in a lot of Tim Burton films like Nightmare Before Christmas and all that. So
yeah, I should have mentioned that too, since I have the soundtrack. So I
right.
should. I have a score for this. So, uh,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm a huge fan, and I still love the music. The music is spot on, perfect for this film. Actually, I think it enhances the suspense in this movie very much because the music is just. It's like any of the Tim Burton's movies with Danny Elfman scores. It's just freaking phenomenal. Because his music can set the tone and mood so well and work so well with the editing. It creates suspense. So, all right. Any final words for everyone in regards to Peter Jackson's The Frighteners?
well let's rate the film. Let's go from one to five, one being the lowest, five being the highest. I'm gonna rate it a 4.5 on this one.
Okay, any reason why? You're going to rate it 4.5.
I'm gonna rate it. I just like I said before. I think I like the horror comedy aspect. I think that going into the film, I'm like it's hilarious at first, and then I like the way the I like the way it changes to horror. And I think it just has a good mixture of horror and comedy that doesn't go too dark and it doesn't go and it's not too light. Michael J. Fox's performance, which is his last performance as a main character in a feature film, I think it's a lot better than the people like and most people like think that it is. I think he does a terrific job, and I really like all of the supporting parts. They did a great job with the supporting characters, and I think I like the energy throughout the film. So.
I think this film is not given enough credit. Not even when it was originally released, because I believe it tanked the box office.
But
Um,
it did a little bit. Say the budget was 26, but it made 29.30 million, but that's not including the advertising budget. So it still lost some money. So
yeah, I remember it being somewhere in the middle of there, and this was a Robert Zemeckis production. So it was one of the, Robert Zemeckis is known for these type of movies. Death Becomes Her, and same type.
Forrest Gump.
Yeah, but no, Death Become Her has the same type of comedy
Yeah,
horror in it.
I like Death Becomes Her. I like it.
Yeah, these films are very hard for an audience, a general audience, to grasp. But me, I went in knowing a lot about this movie before I saw it. I freaking loved it at the theater enough to see it twice. Of course, I watched it way too many times when I was younger, and I'm still a huge Michael J. Fox fan. I do believe that this film is just criminally overlooked.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I think it's definitely underlooked.
Because I don't know of anyone else when I talk to people about films, anyone who ever brings this up. It seems to get skipped, even when I'm talking to Peter Jackson fans. Everyone loves Dead Alive. Dead Alive is like the quintessential one, even before Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings gets put in there. Heavenly Creatures just barely makes it. No one talks about Meet the Feebles.
Yeah, I don't know. The Heavenly Creatures, they really need to put a new release of that out. I don't know what is going on with that film, but that film is really well done.
Peter Jackson's kind of trying to do his own upgrades to his movies, and he's getting to them in his own time. He's not.
But you think that one though of all of them, because but. At the same time, like I said, yeah, I agree that it's really weird. This is weird though. This film is weird in a way. I think that either you get it or you don't get it.
Yeah,
I think it's like I've tried to show it to people occasionally, and they just don't. It doesn't jive with them. They don't. I don't know how. To me, everything works really well in it. It kind of reminds me of Ghostbusters a little bit, but in a horror version of Ghostbusters, and it's
Ghostbusters is the easier sell, I believe, because you have SNL actors in it.
But I like this better because of the horror aspects and because of the. I think it's great between the ghost in it and the main character. So it's weird the way like some people just don't click with it. You can tell right away to me it's like right away I was liking the energy of it. Mm-hmm. But some people just I don't know. Movies sometimes are hard to get people to get into. I don't know why this doesn't click with some people.
It's quirky.
Yeah.
Quirky movies are hard. Having a horror comedy that actually talks to a lot of people, like Shaun of the Dead or Ghostbusters, is a little easier to sell than having something that's quirky.
Yeah.
And I believe Peter Jackson's early movies were quirky. Like Meet the Feebles is fucking quirky. Bad Taste is quirky. You have to really get an idea of those type of movies to buy into it.
But yeah, maybe it is the exaggerated performances of the supporting cast. Maybe that turns people off. I don't know.
Yeah. So,
but I mean, it's not like right away. It's just not. I don't know. I mean, I mean, it's just so weird to me that people just don't like it. But I mean, I tell you that at the same time, I can watch something and like it. I'd rather just watch it without somebody else watching it because I start to feel with their energy that they're not liking it. It's always surprising to me when I like something and I'm like, so here's somebody say they didn't like it, and I say.
Oh no, I get that. I get that all the time too. But yeah. I'm still gonna see my love of this film has not changed. Even when I rewatch it, it's not changed. I'm still gonna give it. You may think it's a bit much, but I'm still gonna give it 5 stars out of 5 because I've seen this movie so many times and I still do not get tired of it. This film to me, it's like the opposite for me would be like John Carpenter's The Thing. That is such a depressing horror movie, but it's so fucking brilliant. I never get tired. I never get tired of watching The Thing. I've seen it so many times, and I still never get tired of it. That's what
Yeah. So would you get The Thing 5 stars as well?
Hell yeah, I would get John Carpenter's The Thing 5 stars.
Yeah. So I mean, I have a hard time giving anything 5 stars, but this is definitely one that I could rewatch and keep watching. As long as I don't watch it with somebody who doesn't like it, then I might feel their energy that they need to leave the room if they don't like it. But
for me to give me a film for 5 stars, it's one of two things. One, I think filmic qualities are so great that I can forgive the fact that I may never ever watch it again. because
Yeah.
it's such a brilliantly put together film. There are some films that I don't watch that often. I think are filmically great, and I
Yeah.
don't watch them because for me, sitting it back down and rewatching them, I may never get that experience back again. And then there's those films where I can rewatch them over and over and over and over again, and I never get tired of them. I can watch them and I can see all the great qualities like this one, where the story aspects, where everything comes together. Even though you're saying I'm missing some stuff, it didn't distract from me enjoying the film. I would love to see more of the judge character,
Yeah.
but to be honest with you, when I'm watching it, it doesn't take away from the film that I don't have those aspects in it.
Right. Well, I think that the additional scenes are probably it probably plays better without them. Like as far as the flow of the film, you
Yeah.
know, especially if you're showing it to somebody who's never seen it before. But it's nice to see the extra stuff, especially like there's more stuff between the ghost, but it is. But like I say, it does kind of maybe mess up the flow of the film a little bit.
Yeah. And I like quirky characters in films. I believe that if every freaking character in every movie has to be normal in some way, then I don't tend to rewatch them as often as I could watch them. As much as I love, I'm trying to think of a great movie that I absolutely love. Um, Roma. I fucking love Roma. Give that 5 stars. May never ever watch that movie again.
You said Broma or Roma?
Roma
with an R. Yeah.
Yeah, the cinematic qualities of that movie are fucking brilliant. It's shot in black and white. The cinematography is brilliant. The music is brilliant. It's a brilliantly put together movie. I may never ever watch that movie again, but I give it
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No. I feel that. Like I watched something like which I probably will eventually watch this one again. I watched The Holdovers. You seen that one?
I'm not seeing it yet. It's on my list. I've not seen that one.
It's really good. But after watching it, I was like, I don't know if I can. It is a Christmas movie. I'm like, I don't know if I could like, rewatch this. But the more I think about that film, the more I start to like it. I don't know. That's probably not a good example for this. But sometimes, I get that though. That you watch something and you're like, I really appreciate that. But I don't know if I can rewatch it. Like at least not immediately. You know.
Well, I think that's the same director who did Sideways, I believe. And
it is. Yeah. You're right. You're right.
Sideways is fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
I think it's that underrated narcissistic comedy that just fucking works because the cast is brilliant.
Right, and it's like it's even got Paul Giamatti in it, who played the main character, playing a similar character. I guess he was probably typecast, but it works really good. And the fact that it's a Christmas movie, it has some rewatchability because of that. But at the same time, they do a good job of not connecting in the way that a lot of these Christmas movies get really sappy or you know what's going to happen. You kind of start to feel what might happen, but it actually treats it in a way that it's more realistic. You don't there's Hallmark's really messed up Christmas movies, man. It's just like I mean, it was kind of funny at first, but now it's gotten to the point where it's like you guys need to get real and stop like ruining Christmas with your Hallmark shit.
There's too many. I hate to say this, gender wise. There's too many female audiences out there who want to see those type of movies during Christmas. So Hallmark, Netflix did the same thing. They're doing the same. Every streaming service has got their little Christmas movies because people are going to stream them during Christmas. I am guilty of that this past Christmas. Me and my wife sat down and we watched. I think if you watch my reviews online, I probably watched 10 or 15 fucking Christmas movies. I never would have before.
I didn't know you did that. That's crazy. I usually watch 2 to 3, and I'm like after a few of them, I'm like I can't do it anymore.
Usually, I watch 0 unless there's like a Krampus or a freaking Killer the Claws in there. I usually watch 0. But this past year, I watched a whole bunch of them, and that's the thing is you have to be in the mindset to watch those type of films, and I believe that that's one of the problems with the Frighteners. I think that there is, like you said, I think there's people who just can't. You have to be in the mindset of the world that Peter Jackson is creating. It's not like the world that you're familiar with. It's just a little off. It's like bringing a little piece of New Zealand to America for American audiences, but they don't know that it's a little piece of New Zealand.
Yeah, and I think it's fantastic, obviously, but it's hard. I mean, you can't make somebody watch the film, obviously, but it's like if they have to kind of come to it on their own. But I think it's very underrated.
Yeah. I agree. So Dave, I want to thank you for joining me for this conversation on Peter Jackson's The Frighteners. We hope to have more conversations with you in the future, especially about more films on this caliber. Everyone out there who is listening, I want you to. I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and I hope if you've never seen The Frighteners, that you will check it out. It is a film that we both deeply appreciate, and we think that it deserves more attention, not only from the horror crowd, but anyone who likes comedy horror or someone who just likes that type of film in general. It is, unfortunately, Michael J. Fox's last feature-length film that he did before he did television and everything else. But I think it is a great movie for him to have gone out on that people have not seen. So with that, thank you for joining me on Conversations in Horror. We'll be back with more episodes throughout the year 2025. Remember, check out some of our previous episodes that we've done before and become a subscriber, a liker, a follower, all that good stuff. So you never miss an episode. They come out every week on Wednesdays at 8 a.m. We're going to try never to miss a week to bring you a new episode every week. So with that, everyone out there, have a good day. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.